The following podcast is about movies and TV. There may be spoilers, though we do try to avoid them. Also, we occasionally mention current events like the COVID-19 pandemic. This isn't our focus, but it is a topic that is hard to avoid. We know that some are trying to avoid these things because times are strange, but we hope you consider our show a pleasant distraction.
I love you.
Well, welcome back, Couch Potatoes. We're Green and Faceless on the couch, and I'm the Green Traveler.
And I'm the Faceless Leone. So, we're here, kicking it old school with another threesome.
Oh, yeah. And that favorite, fabulous, most loved time of year, which is Halloween, October. Mm-hmm. Our second threesome to celebrate our horror movie marathon.
Just sometimes the way it's phrased is good, and I know that's the reason behind the whole bit, but it just...
What are you talking about?
It gets me. Yeah, we constantly have threesomes, and these are particularly to celebrate the season.
Exactly. Everybody has threesomes.
The season...
It's a very common thing that a lot of people do.
The season to be... the season with the reason to be spoofalicious. But we're not doing spoofses. We're doing some spoopy stuff. The happy OG of these major franchises. What are we talking about today, Greg?
There you go. Yeah. All right. You worked your way there.
I worked my way there for sure.
Yeah, so the best movies of, Halloween. There's, if you're going to talk horror movies with anybody, you'll eventually get back to at least one of these three franchises.
Oh, definitely.
They're iconic. They're all slashers, but they're so well loved. Some of the best directing comes out of all of it. Well, not really. But there's some amazing directors involved, especially with the OGs. The sequels, on the other hand, that's where I was going. There's not many.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of
the franchise part of these franchises are not so great, I would say. There's definitely better sagas out there.
But there's so much. There's just something so beautiful about them all at the same time.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
To marathon all of them. I won't get into the movies just yet because we're not deep diving, but we'll go further into them just a moment. But just a marathon, even like my least favorite of these three franchises, is still an enjoyable evening.
I would say it's an enjoyable undertaking. There is effort involved.
You gotta surf. You gotta go through a lot of campy material.
Yeah, for sure. But these OG ones, great. I would say they're all pretty legit. I would give them that.
They're all really fun.
They're
two of them are really fun.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, and I think we'll agree on which one.
I think it's very. You know me, so you know probably which one it is.
Mm-hmm. I think we're thinking
the listeners. Our couch potatoes don't. But
no,
they will
don't.
Soon enough.
Yeah.
Probably best just to go at it chronologically and start with the one that started it all.
For sure.
Back in 1978, John Carpenter's Halloween.
Oh yeah.
Easy to say up front, just like with our first threesome that we recorded on. I'm biased. I'm going to mention that up front. Halloween has been one of my favorite horror movies ever. Still is. If anybody asks me what my favorite horror movie is, I will say Halloween. Technically, it's The Lighthouse, but I don't consider The Lighthouse a horror movie. So that's my
it's kind of
that's my way of getting around it.
It's in a mid-ground somewhere.
Yeah, it's psychological horror, but at the same time, I just feel like it's so much more. Like it transcends it for me.
A C movie. That's like it's a genre in itself.
Yeah.
It's so many things, that movie, but we're not talking about that movie. Greg.
Yeah.
What is Halloween?
Halloween to me is so special. I still don't want to get into the movie. I just want to sit here and just talk Halloween forever. So the movie itself, you open up on a young boy, literally through his eyes. The intro takes you through the eyes of Michael Myers, as you see his
pretty early first person view, I would say. But he kills somebody. Like you say, it starts off in the perspective of the killer, and I don't think it's spoiling anything to say that the killer kills somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And it's his sister also. That's like, the intro is you have this just perfect pure evil child. It's just like he doesn't even really kind of notice what he does once they rip the mask off him. They show Michael Myers as a child. They rip the mask off, and he just kind of blank stares, just like looking at the camera, just like,
right.
I don't know what just happened. Why are you yelling at me? Why is everybody screaming?
I see.
But not innocent. Not innocent blankness, just pure, just like, no remorse for what he just did, no understanding of what he just did, kind of thing. Well, I guess no understanding would make him innocent, but he's not innocent. But you go from there to present day. I don't know what, 20 years later or something.
It's like, I think 15.
15. Yeah, I've seen it so many times yet I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the first scene's supposed to be 63, and then it is 78.
78.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So yeah, you go forward, and you're in present day Haddonfield. Present day for the time, of course. Haddonfield, Illinois, where, far away in an asylum, not in Haddonfield, but far away, Michael Myers has escaped. And his doctor, played by Donald Pleasance, is coming to find him, try to track him down before. What?
Dr. Loomis.
Dr. Loomis, yeah. The great Dr. Loomis, who did not want to be in the movie.
No, he gets top billing, too. But
and then he comes back for the sequels.
Yeah, Jamie Lee is obviously the star of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, that's neither here nor there.
But yeah, Dr. Loomis comes to try to stop Michael Myers from, creating more havoc. And Michael Myers is coming back to Haddonfield just to continue his legacy. He's become a legend of Haddonfield. It's a small town, small Midwest town that, it's got its haunted story. It's got that legacy of, that's the Michael Myers house. You don't go in there.
Right.
It's like, and he's back to further that legacy. And that's the setup for Halloween. And
that is what Halloween is in a nutshell.
It's such, in my opinion, it's still a perfect movie, having seen it like maybe 20 to 30 times.
Right.
It's still spooky.
Perspectives for people who have not seen this movie but are also familiar with Jamie Lee Curtis, which is kind of a conundrum, because if you know Jamie Lee Curtis, you should have seen this movie, but whatever. She is in high school, and she is also a babysitter. I think that's kind of integral to what goes on in the film.
That's actually part of the creation of Halloween was after John Carpenter's, I think it was his first movie, Assault on Precinct 13. He was approached by two guys to make a horror movie about a serial killer who's stalking babysitters.
Oh, okay. So real simple.
Yeah, and that's where this story dawned.
He did a good job of making it 3-dimensional. That's for sure.
Yep.
They probably wanted a titty movie.
I mean, they kind of got that.
They got a little bit. There's
A little bit. There's
I
enough
bet
of
they
it.
were like, there better be tits in this movie, and he's like, all right.
I mean, that's also kind of the point of John Carpenter's Halloween is those who have sex and do bad things. This the sinful youth, they get murdered by Mike Myers.
Yeah, and also like it's kind of weird. Like in that first scene, his sister is naked in the scene. She is a teenager, most likely portrayed by an adult. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, there's nothing inappropriate in that scene. It's just her back to him. But
boobs.
I don't think there's boobs in that first
There's
scene.
boobs when he walks in the door, you see boobs, and then when she gets stabbed, she's on the ground and there's blood all over her boobs.
I must have blinked. Oh no, I do remember seeing the blood on the boobs.
Yeah.
But then there are boobs later, but mostly
she flashed the camera. She had to die.
That's right.
That's the message.
That's it. That's the message. There are some boobs in the movie, so if you're against boobs in your movie,
if you're against boobs, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, come on, guys, they're great. But anyways, that's not the point of the movie. There's a lot to this movie. It's I would say that it is a good movie. And there was something I wanted to say.
You're just gonna stop at good, though. That's the adjective.
No, well, I will. It's definitely a masterpiece of the genre, and it helped the whole genre kick off, for the 80s, anyways.
Yeah.
And I think that it's not that it. I don't know. It's just honestly, I'm not as into the horror genre as you are, and there's just other horror movies that I like better. But
plus this one just means a lot to me.
Oh,
so
definitely, and it's also one of the ones that I watched that did get me more interested in the genre. So I mean, it is a great movie. I will say great movie.
But I there we go. I got you there. I do get the downsides because, even watching it this time, again, I've seen it so many times that the acting does feel, not the greatest. It kind of feels a little dated. It kind of feels like they weren't, because they filmed it in the course of like 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. The whole thing in the course of 3 weeks with a budget of $300,000, which for a movie is ridiculously low.
For a low budget movie, this is an amazing movie. I will step it up a notch for sure. This is masterfully done for any budget, and they did a great job with what they had. I will say that.
It's written over the course of 10 days, shot over the course of 3 weeks. Low budget. John Carpenter scored the whole thing himself, which we'll get to the score. Wow. The score is amazing.
Yeah, that's actually, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but it's just like all this comes together, but at the same time, it does kind of. I do feel that bit of rush. It does. It doesn't seem like I didn't feel much energy between the characters. They're not really acting together too much. Right. Just kind of in the begining, and then they're all in their separate areas and they're on phone calls.
Yeah, separately, I think they're better, honestly. Like they're probably, like you said, shot in 3 weeks. They probably didn't have that much rehearsal time, so you need. I have an acting background, and if you want a scene to work, your actors need to rehearse because they need to know each other. They need to know each other. That's all.
you need that chemistry to feel real.
Exactly. So, and they probably just didn't have that time. It probably just wasn't in the budget.
And it doesn't at all hurt the movie. That's not, the point of the movie isn't they're not the characters. It's like they do drive the movie, but the point of the movie is that creepy, chaotic boogeyman.
Yeah. When are they going to get got?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, what's his motive? does he even have a motive? Is he just pure evil?
The doctor seems to think so.
Yeah, the doctor definitely is. The doctor's like, he is pure evil. He doesn't have a motive. Later on, I guess, as the franchise goes on, things change and there's motives built into it. But here in that first movie, it just feels random. Mm-hmm. He just happens upon these poor, teenagers who are just having a good night on Halloween. One of them's stuck babysitting. The other ones are all, enjoying themselves. And he just goes on a murder spree.
Yeah.
And, it's got great kills. The build-up is always spooky. Great thrills, great kills, great thrills.
And the screams.
Blood spills.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, it's not the greatest kills. They are kind of, for the time they were pretty good. Like, especially when he stabs the guy into the wall and the guy just hangs there.
Right. Yeah,
like that it's got to be a lot of force into that one.
Right.
But for what it did, I love it so much. But I do recognize that it has its faults. That it does feel kind of. I wouldn't say it feels dated, but in a way it feels, you've seen better since then.
Yes, but those wouldn't have happened without this movie. I strongly believe that this movie, it has
it's a great foundation.
Yes. It's what's the term I want to use? It was definitely an inspiration for a lot of the filmmakers that are to come. And I honestly, I gotta say, I think that without going further into what happens in this movie, I think we kind of said some great amount about this movie.
But there's things I wanted to toss out there, though.
Oh, sure, yeah. I would love to talk about maybe more of a description of Michael Myers. Oh, and there was something about that, too. Out of these three movies, this is the only one that we know right away who the killer is.
Oh, yeah.
This is and I think that is a pretty unique element to this genre.
It also makes him, that is. Yeah, and it makes him creepier, because it's we know who the killer is, but at the same time, we don't know who the killer is.
We don't know anything about him. Yeah,
because it's just you don't know what he's capable of. You don't know, why he's doing it. Mm-hmm. He's constantly where he shouldn't be. He's always in the dark. Mm-hmm. He's the Shape. That's how he's credited. He's not even credited as Michael Myers. He's the Shape. Wow. And it's just because he's always in the background. He's always a silhouette, or he's coming around the bush, played by Nick Castle. Fun fact: Nick Castle directed Dennis the Menace. So he plays Michael. He plays Michael Myers, where he murders teenagers wildly, and then directs Dennis the Menace.
So, Dennis the Menace is Michael Myers that he was allowed to grow up and be supervised.
Yeah, that's a what if we want to look down that road.
Yeah.
That's a terrifying road still. But yeah, Nick Castle. I don't know if he did a lot of acting outside of this, but I know he did he went into directing after that kind of stuff. But cool. I thought one fun fact that I, when I was researching this throughout the many years I've watched this movie, but when Nick Castle would turn to John Carpenter for advice, it's why would Michael Myers do this? What's Michael Myers' motivation for going there? John Carpenter's your motivation is to go from A to B and to look like you're not acting. Okay. So it's just that was it. I think the only advice John Carpenter gave him was after he murdered one guy, he was just why don't you tilt your head a little bit like you're looking at a display of butterflies. Huh. Whereas with Jamie Lee Curtis, he had a scream a factor. You know, he's like on a level of how scared she was, because you know when you're filming things, you can't film it in order. It's
Right,
too hard
yeah.
to film a movie in order. So sometimes you're filming like all over the place. So to help her with how scared she's supposed to be, you know, he had like a scream factor of like you're a 4 to an 8, you know, something like that.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, I feel like we could talk about Halloween for a really long time.
Yeah, we can do a deep dive someday on it, definitely.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that'd be great. But I mean, without going into spoilers, I think it'd be really hard to kind of say.
Yeah, I don't even think there's really much to spoil, but like there's
true.
so much to dive. There's so much to dive further. There's like, you know,
Yes.
themes and stuff like that, you know, just this movie is so
Right.
deep with what people have made it to be.
Okay. Well, then in that case, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just saying, it's just like people have found things to analyze about this film, and I'm sure that was part of Carpenter's mind at one point, or you know, maybe it was subconscious when he wrote it. But it's just like, you know, it really is just like, you know, Halloween comes around, and that's the night when you know, the souls can come back to wreak havoc on the living, and that's kind of what this movie's about. You know, it's Michael Myers returning to Haddonfield to wreak havoc.
Yeah, it's it, like, in a lot of ways, this is just a fantastic movie. What do you gotta say in closing? That's what we usually do.
Yeah, 4 out of 4 stars, definitely.
Oh,
Easily worth your watch.
Oh, definitely.
You know, I guess it, you know, I don't think it feels dated, but it does have that, you know, quality to it where it's not, you've seen better horror films. You know, other movies have built off of this one in so many better ways, but going back to its origin, still able to hold its own against all of them. You know, it's such a fun movie. But is it the best of the threesome? We'll find out.
We'll find out. So, in closing, I'd say about this movie, if you have a fear of William Shatner, don't watch this movie. That's just a joke. If you don't know, the mask in the movie was a William Shatner mask that they altered, but
yeah, doesn't look like him at all.
Doesn't look like
your
him
fear.
at all.
Your fear. It's just
you'll be
gonna
okay.
be.
Yeah, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
It'll be like you'll be a little extra afraid of Michael Myers than most people, but you won't know why.
Yeah, it's gonna be an even more irrational segment of an irrational fear.
Yes, that's right. Anyways, I do think, like you said, if you're gonna do a Halloween movie lineup, this movie should be considered. It's definitely worth your time. Like I've said a couple times, it was masterfully done. And I do really enjoy. I enjoy it every time I watch it, but I also, like, I've seen it enough times that it doesn't impress as much as it did upon the first watch. I will say that.
I can agree with that.
But definitely worth going to your Shudder app and watching it.
Yeah, that is where we watched it, everybody. It is streamable on Shudder.
Yeah.
And it's always will be a staple of my horror movie marathon.
And it should be.
You know, I there may be, you know, I shouldn't say always. Maybe in a decade I'll be like, you know what? I need a year off from Halloween. That happens with a lot of movies that I love because I watch them too much. But so far it hasn't happened with Halloween. You know, I've still been able to watch it for the past like 13, 14 years.
So
Friday the 13th.
Yeah, Friday the 13th. Unlucky 13. It's also someone's birthday.
Somewhere out there, yeah.
Yeah, 1980, right?
Yep.
And anyhow, it's all about a camp. It's all about a camp. The name of the camp escapes me. I have to be perfectly honest.
Camp
this
Crystal
is the first
Lake.
time I've watched this movie. I've never
Are
seen
you
this
serious?
one. Yeah, I've never seen this
man.
one. But
Have you seen any of the
unlike
sequels?
Hocus Pocus, I've never lied.
Have you seen the sequels?
No, I haven't seen any Friday the 13th movie.
Oh man, okay. I think this is the one. We'll get into the movie, of course, but this is the one franchise where I think it gets better with the sequels.
I would hope so.
There are good ones in, the next franchise we'll talk about, and there's good ones in Halloween. Right. But for the other franchise we'll talk about, and for Halloween, the original is the best.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, people can argue other sequels are better, but for me at least, I mean, I guess I shouldn't say I haven't seen all of the sequels for all of the franchises, but
right.
For Friday the 13th franchise, some of them just get so fucking funny that it's great in the bad way, and I love them.
That's good. So this movie, though, I would not say is a bad movie, but I would say compared to the other two, it does fall behind a little bit. But I am going to synopsize. So it's about a camp. Do you remember the name of the camp?
Camp Crystal Lake.
Camp Crystal Lake. That's what you just said earlier. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So Camp Crystal Lake, it's got a blood curse on it. And anyhow, somebody who is related to people who ran the camp before is trying to get it started up again. His name is
Well, why does it have a blood curse, Blake?
It has a blood curse because people die there, and one particular person dies there, a little boy. Poor Jason Voorhees. Named Jason.
Drowned because the horny counselors were having sex.
Yeah, they were having sex instead of watching.
And not too long after poor Jason drowned, two counselors were, killed and murdered, and
yeah. But anyways,
they had to shut it down.
Yeah. So this guy is trying to get it back up and running. I'm trying to see if I can't find his name. I think he's one of the few people who have a last name. Steve Christie. Christie.
I don't even remember it.
He's kind of set up in the first act to be a main character, and he barely shows up in the movie.
Mustachioed gentleman.
Okay. He's got some creepy lines, and
that's one of the problems with this whole movie is everything is pervy.
That is true. Everything's pervy.
There's so few scenes that don't turn into like, how can we show boobs? How can we be sexy? Right. It's like, yes, there's boobs in Halloween. Yes, there's boobs in the next movie we're gonna watch, and there's sex scenes, and
right.
they all do that nasty, the big sin for horror movies.
Mm.
But this movie is all about cashing in on that.
It for sure is.
And
I will give this movie the one
tasteless.
The one thing is I would imagine they were inspired to do so from Halloween. They do the killings in first person, and a lot of them were kind of cool. I will say I think this movie probably had less money go into it than Halloween, and not as it had more money. Well, that's sad, but it also
maybe, I don't know.
It also didn't have a visionary director behind it, I would say.
I don't even remember who the director is.
I don't either. I feel bad if I'm, if you're listening and I'm shitting on your work. But,
he's not listening.
Anyways, it tries to go into all of these characters very little bit, and it has no focus on any of the characters. Even the person who's supposed to be the main character, there's no real focus on them.
On her, yeah. And I mean, that's the synopsis in a nutshell, though. He tries to reopen it. He brings in camp counselors,
right?
And they start getting stabbed. Slashed, gashed,
and all sorts of stuff.
And I mean, just like with Halloween, you don't know why the killer's doing it. You don't know. I mean, here you don't know who the killer is. For a little while, or their motivation. So it's like it is spookier in that sense, but I think it's shot worse.
Yes, it's definitely shot worse. I will say that.
So, one thing we didn't talk about with Halloween that I was kind of saving it for here was the music. What saves, for Halloween, the music is just another great aspect of Halloween. John Carpenter's score is great. It's simple. It's eerie without having to do too much. Same thing with Friday the 13th. It's simple. It's you hear, especially like you only ever hear it when the monster or when the killer is not on screen, but in the vicinity of the camera. When the killer is there, when the killer is near, you hear the music.
Right.
And that's a great aspect of this film. The music is, that's why, like, once you get to that third act and the murderer is like nonstop going there, like chasing people. Well, chasing one person in particular. Once you get there, there's so much music. It's it's great. It's fast paced. But other than that, I honestly think the killings are worse. Like, I feel like they're bad in this movie.
Yeah, for some the axe prosthetic, I thought that was pretty good.
Well, that's the thing. The effects, the after effects of the aftermath of the deaths are great. The gore is great. The kills themselves are so weak. Like it's like part of the fun of these movies is how do you it's not fun because people are dying. It's fun because it's on a film. It's just entertainment. It's not. But part of the fun is seeing how are they going to show you these people get killed.
Right.
And this movie, a lot of that. Yeah, and a lot of it happens with a rough edit. You see the axe come down, you cut quick, you cut back, she's got the axe prosthetic in her face.
That is
true. And it's like, it's like, how would you film that at that time? Yes, but and the gore is great still. But I just feel like a lot of the deaths are just kind of boring, like, especially the bed one where he just like pushes an arrow up through a guy's neck. Right. And it's just like, they just cut to a very clear, like, fake neck kind of thing. And it's like, I'm just like, I don't care.
I believe that was the scene with the other main character, Kevin Bacon.
Ah, yes. Kevin Bacon.
Nice and crispy. Wow. Kevin Bacon.
Pre-breakout too still.
Yes, yeah. So if you're a Baconator, you should check out this early film if just for
he was in that. Yeah, he was in that I think it was National Lampoon's film before this.
Really?
And then he was in this, and like he was still. I think he might have still been like a waiter during this period. Maybe that was just before this, but he hadn't hit the big times yet.
No, and he's definitely. I lied. Well, honestly, like I said, nobody's really focused on in this movie.
No. But you get Kevin Bacon because he's famous now.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So you do. I do have to say I paid a little bit more attention to those scenes just because I know who he is, and some are.
And well, it's like also again with this, as you were saying, nobody gets paid attention to. Like the main girl is played by Adrienne King,
right? And
she's only the main girl because she fucking survives,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Like with Halloween, Jamie Lee Curtis is like she's the innocent one. She just smoked a little weed beforehand, but she's the one not partying. She's the one staying indoors and babysitting the kids. She's innocent. Here, this lady just played Strip Monopoly. Like, who the fuck plays Strip Monopoly? Like, she's just as sinful as the rest of them, and yet, for whatever reason, she gets to. Well, maybe she doesn't get to live. That with that ending, it's.
Yeah, the ending is a little obtuse. No, that's not the word I wanted, but close enough.
Dumb.
Yeah, it is. I will say it's dumb. I don't really want to give it away because I think the ending is the only part to really is the only purpose really to watch this movie is for the twist ending. So I think that
Yeah,
that we
I can
should
agree
leave
with
that vague. But when it happened in the boat, I laughed so hard because, like I said, I've never seen this movie.
Yeah, it's just really stupid.
It's pretty stupid.
It's a dumb ending. The twist is okay. I like
Yeah,
the twist.
the twist is good.
Mentioning, bouncing off of, that, like, going away from that a little bit. Some of the things about this, the original Friday the 13th, it doesn't have the staples that the franchise is known for.
Right.
People know Jason. They know his hockey mask.
Right.
This doesn't have the hockey mask.
Doesn't.
There's no. I don't know if there's even a hockey mask ever shown in this movie.
No, I don't think
so. I mean, there's so many, like, small staples of the franchise that just are not seen here at all.
No. I think I think the success came from the sequels, like you said.
But this made so much money. This one did too.
Really?
Well, I think so.
Everybody was. It's not like the genre. Like, I feel
critics hated it.
Oh yeah, I could see that. But I mean, after Halloween, people were hungry for this, so I think that might be why it did so well.
Yeah. So we're better. We can consider ourselves better than Siskel and Ebert. Because he hated this movie so much, he gave the ending away in his review. Yeah, he hated it, and, like, him and Ebert, they just slammed this movie. They had, like, a war on women segment in film, and, like, they used this as, one of their arguments, because it's just like, this movie's terrible to women.
Oh, that's true.
Like, they're just objects in this movie.
Yeah, that's very true. But I mean, the men characters are just barely propped up as well in this movie. I mean, there's no depth to really any of the characters.
Well, a lot of them are just sleazy assholes.
Right.
Like, you find a truck driver who's helping one of the counselors, like, right in the beginning of the film. A truck driver helps a counselor by giving her a lift to Camp Crystal Lake, but just outside of Camp Crystal Lake. He doesn't actually get her there. He doesn't want to
go up there. He is superstitious.
And but, like, while he's when he's helping her into the truck, it's just like she gets her, she gets up on the step, she gets ready to get into the truck, and he just grabs her ass and throws her in there, basically.
Oh my god.
And I'm just like, you kidding me? Like, you couldn't have helped her up in that truck any other way. And, like,
I did not notice that, I have to be honest.
Yeah, there's so much of that where it's just like, I don't know. I don't like needless
sexualization.
Yeah, it's just like there's a way to do it in movie, and it's just like I've talked about this before. It's like with Game of Thrones, at least in the early seasons, I find it hard to watch those first few seasons of Game of Thrones because it's like they knew people would zone out during the exposition,
right? So
they put exposition in sex scenes so that people would get the exposition while still paying attention. And I think it's just sad.
Yeah, because honestly, better than that. I like exposition. I mean, that's where a lot of like world building comes from.
Yeah, it's needed for TV because that's, it's a slower process of building the world and everything. Whereas with movies, I feel like most people should be able to show the story more.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, I will, there is definite need for exposition. You can't just. I'm sure somebody can make a movie with no exposition whatsoever, but for most people, you need it,
Yeah, so, I think that I don't know what else to say about this movie, to be perfectly honest. It looked like they had fun. I'll say that.
Yeah. Like, it's just, I don't know. I feel like there's so much boring to this movie. It's not, as you said, it's not bad. I get why people like Friday the 13th. I think the sequels get much better. Not immediately. I don't think the second one's that great. But, like, they do get better over time, and until they're just, like, completely absurd and funny.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie's so rapid. Like, I feel like most of the characters are killed off over the course of, like, 10 minutes.
For sure.
And it's an hour-and-a-half movie, so it's just like, you have like 40 minutes of build-up and tension, and none of that's really that exciting for me because I don't like any of the characters. They're all
Right, yeah.
asshole teenagers.
Yeah, I think that what makes a good slasher movie good is that you have some sort of connection to the characters so that you're rooting for them a little bit. But
Right.
at the very least, the main character and their friends, which is a pretty usual setup for a horror movie.
Right.
Like there's always the first couple kills are always people you don't care about or
with Halloween
assholes.
With Halloween, like I think everybody can relate to Jamie Lee Curtis. It's like you're that person stuck doing something at home, or it's like I got to do this thing. I can't go out and party.
Right.
But you see all your friends going out and partying, and you're like, damn, and I just want to join them. Why do I have to do this?
Honestly, I do. Going back to that movie, since we're there, I really enjoyed Annie. Annie was a fun character.
Yeah.
And
you can see all of your friends and her friends.
Yeah. And then when they're getting high in the car and her cop dad, they see her on the corner. That's a good scene, man.
It's just funny.
So funny.
Screams a lot too.
Yeah, and like the scenes that were supposed to be funny in this movie, in Friday the 13th, just weren't funny. Especially the scene where he's wearing the Native American headdress. Like, come on. But I mean, that was pretty commonplace, I would say, back in the day.
It's just dumb.
But it's just dumb, and it's not okay. And I'm not making an excuse for this movie, I guess, to do that. But like, you gotta understand, it's a 40-year-old movie. Things were different. But anyhow, what do you gotta say closing for this?
Closing, I give it a what?
You did the first closing last time, but I
think, you go ahead.
Okay, so anyways, it definitely was not my favorite of the three. I wouldn't invite it back. If somebody was doing a horror movie marathon and this was a part of it, I'd sit there, but I'd probably talk through it.
Yeah, I would definitely talk through it. Yeah.
There are definitely some things I enjoyed. I enjoyed watching it because, like I said, it was the first time I watched it. But I don't think I would come back to this movie because I want to, I guess. Is if somebody's like, hey, I want to put on this movie, I'd be like, okay.
You're not gonna block out your own schedule to go see it.
No.
And I would agree with that. I would say it doesn't come back to my horror movie list often unless I'm just quite often I'll have days where I'll just like set aside now when I started the marathon, it was every day. I realized that's a mistake. Some days you just need to have off.
Right.
So I set days aside, and some days that I set aside, I'm just like, I want to watch some movies. So I'll marathon the Friday the 13th franchise because they are fun to marathon back to back because they're just sleazy garbage to put on in the background so that you can get things done but have noise on. And it's fun to look up every now and then and see Jason stab a teenager.
Right.
But like the first one, it's not, I don't think it's worth it. It's kind of boring. Not the greatest. You've seen so much better, and there's not much to back this one up. And the fact that 12 films came after this is crazy to me.
Yeah. That's a lot of movies. Jesus.
Those 12 films build off each other.
Is that including the crossovers with?
Oh man, I have no idea. That's what I saw on Wikipedia. I have no idea.
Oh man.
Spoilers. I look things up on Wikipedia.
Oh my god.
Not recommended,
it's
kids.
False. Okay. So
2 stars.
2 stars. That's fair. I would say that's fair. A Nightmare on Elm Street. Kids are getting scared on Elm Street.
9 films on Nightmare on Elm Street.
Wow.
Put that up front. Started in 1984. Yet another inspired by John Carpenter's Halloween.
For sure.
This one directed and written by the masterful Wes Craven, who is, I feel like, if I'm putting all my energy into it, I think he's probably my favorite horror movie director.
Wow.
Yeah, I love Wes Craven. He is such a master of, like, he has he shows with Scream. When he did the Scream franchise, he's proven that he just has a just complete understanding of the genre. You know, just like everything that makes the genre tick, he just knows it, and he makes fun of it. And all those tropes are up front here with A Nightmare on Elm Street. You have Freddy Krueger, just crazy burned guy with knives for hands. He appears in everybody's nightmares, and he's killing people. And when he kills you in your dreams, you die in real life. And he's stalking these teenagers, gruesomely die in real life. And he's stalking these teenagers, man. And I don't know, it's like, again, why is he stalking the teenagers? That's part of the story. It's great.
That's part of the story. It's pretty good.
And so it's just like, there's a mystery to this story. It's like, there's a bit of a mystery to Friday the 13th, but at the same time, there's not. Like, you don't know who the murderer is, but nobody's really investigating it. It's just like, they're just kind of dying, and then people are figuring out that other people are dying.
Yeah, it is. The movie is one giant reaction.
Yeah.
This is like, honestly, like, oh, we're not talking about the movie. We're synopsizing.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the synopsis. That's the synopsis, though. Is it's like,
there you go.
Creepy guy in your dreams who's murdering teenagers. There's a main girl, Nancy, and she's trying to figure it out. She's investigating why she's seeing this guy in her dream. Why are her friends? Her friends are having, same dreams. Well, not the same dreams, but they're having nightmares with this guy, this very same guy in their dream.
Yeah, and can I say, like, both this movie and Halloween, pretty strong female characters, especially for the times, I would say.
Yeah.
Both Laurie and Nancy, they fight. They do their damnedest to survive.
Yeah.
Nancy, while Laurie is reacting to what's going on, Nancy is going out there and she is doing research, and she's trying to figure out what she can do to stop this.
Yeah, she can't sleep. She can't go to bed comfortably. So it's like she's staying up at night, drinking a
lot of coffee,
a lot of coffee, taking those the stay awake pills, but spelled STA. Just awake.
They still sell those. Probably truckers still take them.
I kind of just, like, I didn't even know if they were real. I kind of thought maybe they were just a prop for the movie. But you're right. They do have strong female characters who are driving the plot along. And I don't think the acting's always great. But I feel like for a teenager, like, horror movie, I feel like here it's great. Wes Craven gets really good performances. Introduces Johnny Depp, and he's kind of that boyfriend who doesn't believe his girlfriend is having, a psychotic breakdown.
There is so much to enjoy with this movie, and the creep factor is up to an 11 on it for sure. Because, I mean, what's gonna happen if you're at an impressionable age watching this for the first time? You watch a movie about a monster who can get you when you're sleeping. Mm-hmm. You're going to go to bed and have nightmares about that guy.
It's like not even just a monster, but it's like a burned guy with claws on his hands.
Right.
He's terrifying, and he has his played by Robert Englund, just so amazingly, just one of the best castings ever. If you're going up against any of these three villains, in my opinion, Freddy Krueger is the most frightening.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't want to go up against any of them.
I mean, yeah,
but the other two I can at least wrap my head around. They are, they're impenetrable, unkillable people that are there.
Yeah.
I can see them at least. I can run away from them. Most
the
likely I'm going to die
world.
still. Yeah, they're in the physical world. Freddy, he's in my mind. I don't like that.
Yeah. No, I don't
I don't
like
want
it at
shit
all.
going on up there that I'm not in control of.
Yeah, I would say that this movie definitely creeps me out the most out of the three of
Yeah.
them.
And like expert use of music.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's so creepy. Just all the scares here are so just unnerving.
Yes.
Because Wes Craven does a great job at warping reality and that surreal world of the dreamscape.
Right.
You know, it's like there's so many moments where it's like, is this real? Because it could be real, but it feels really dreamlike, and you know, it goes either way. But it's so creepy to watch this movie. I love it just as much as I love Halloween, but I haven't watched it as much. I didn't grow up with Nightmare on Elm Street because it didn't play as much on my TV, or like if it did, it was like super late and I wasn't able to watch it, because it's like they did Halloween and Friday the 13th marathons when I was kids.
It'd be a little bit harder, like on like your standard stations to get, or even some cable stations to get this movie to play. It's pretty gory.
Yeah, it's really they went all out on some scenes.
Oh, definitely.
Poor Johnny Depp.
Poor Johnny.
He just got into the world of movie making, and
now he's a puddle on the floor. And
now he's a sea of blood in a room. Like, it's terrible.
That scene was great when the cops get on the scene of that it's pretty good. That's
some of the beauty of the movie is too, is like you see the cops come up on these horrible death scenes, and some of them, or at least two in particular, they're like, we can't explain this really, you know, especially that one they're like, we don't get what happened here. But like two of the other kills, they're kind of just like, how, you know, it's like there is an explanation, but it feels wrong.
Yeah, it feels wrong. Yeah.
And it's like, again, that's another part with Wes Craven and with Nightmare on Elm Street, is there is a story here. You know, there is a motivation for the murders. You know, this killer has a drive. The other ones are kind of just, you know, in their own frightening sense. You know, one of them is doing it for revenge, and you know, the other one's just like wild chaos. And here, I don't know. I like having the murderer have a drive. It makes him a little more frightening.
Right.
I mean, you kind of get the motive more, but at the same time, they do a great job setting these characters up so that you kind of do feel for them, just like with Halloween.
Right.
Whereas like Friday the 13th, who cares if those teenagers got stabbed?
And
they're all just crazy.
Even the parent characters feel important in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And
although
they
I don't really
definitely
like
did
the mom.
not. And the only parent that you have even a little bit of connection to in Halloween is the police officer. Who does not act like a police officer, because he just lets that psychiatrist call his shots.
Well, he's a small town police officer. You know, he's like, he probably doesn't ever see. You know, he's that trope of a small town officer who's just like, I'll just do this so I can, you know, eat donuts and hang out with the people at the coffee shop, and occasionally I have to go answer a car accident.
Yeah.
And then like just a terrible murderer comes and he's like, I don't know how to handle this.
That's very true. It's very true. There is a police officer character in this as well, and he is
another dad,
the parent of the main character, and that's what's the character's name?
Nancy.
Lieutenant Thompson. So he's pretty high up in the force, and so he's investigating all these murders. And one of the main things about the movie that keeps the plot going is that Nancy goes with him with this supernatural information, and he just won't bite any of it. He's like, no, there's a reasonable explanation.
Yeah, well, it's like your daughter suffered a traumatic, her best friend just died.
Right.
And she's refusing to sleep. She's starting to act pretty crazy because she's not sleeping. So, like, I mean, in reality, you're probably on the dad's side here. You're probably just like, no, honey, you just need to sleep. Like, just calm down, go to bed. And then, things get a little crazier. Maybe you start paying attention. And, Wes Craven gets that. It's masterfully done here.
It is, yes. This is a very well-crafted movie.
I don't know. It's just, like, what makes it so good is the gore. Like, he doesn't hold back on some of those scenes. And, like, especially in the dream world, Freddy can do anything he wants in the dream world. It's so surreal. It's like he'll have long, goofy arms with scissors at the end of them. He could be a car.
He can do whatever because it's
whatever
a dream.
He wants. Yeah. I will say, I think one area where, for me, I think the third act of this movie does kind of go downhill. Not in a takes it off course. Still, this movie, it gets 4 stars for me. It's one of Wes Craven's best. I just love this movie. It's so good. But that third act, it does kind of just like, especially the ending, like it just kind of, I don't like the ending that much of this one because I don't know, it just seems gimmicky. The rest of the movie, like, I mean, it's kind of gimmicky throughout, but I don't know, it kind of goes away from, I didn't like it. It didn't sit with me. With Friday the 13th, it just like, they have that stupid, really dumb ending that just like, it just seems like we need to get one more scare.
That also really didn't fit the movie.
No. And I mean, and this ending does fit the movie, but it just, again, it kind of feels like we need to get that one more scare.
Right, it does.
Whereas with Halloween, like that final, like, I will spoil Halloween's, like they shoot Michael 6 times and then the camera pans back to where he fell and he's gone.
Right.
And again, it's like that one last scare, but it works so well in Halloween because, it terrifies your imagination.
Right.
Because it's like, dude, that dude should be dead and he's gone now.
Yes.
And that's where it ends.
It still gives you the feeling, and this might be because of his score combined with it, does give you the feeling that it's over for now. Like you do get that feeling that Michael,
you can breathe.
Michael's gonna be like, he's probably got to go recuperate.
Yeah, you can breathe, but it's coming back.
Yeah, yeah. The other 2 endings, they don't necessarily have that feeling.
And with it doesn't seem to be really a resolve with Nightmare on Elm Street, because it's like with Halloween you could take a breather, like
right.
It's like, it's still out there, the boogeyman's still alive. You're still scared of that, but he's gone for now.
Yeah, and in 78 they're like, oh, are they gonna make another one? Or maybe not. I guess I don't know how likely sequels were back then.
Well, I know he wanted to make it an anthology series and not what it became.
Really?
That's why the third one happened. But they felt like they had to wrap up what they were doing with Michael. But with with Friday the 13th, there's kind of resolve. I mean, who knows? That ending's so muddy. It was bad. But with Nightmare on Elm Street, it does have an ending, and it goes a little further. And then who knows with that ending? It's like, who knows with that ending?
Yeah,
it's like
that ending is very open-ended on what actually happened.
Yeah, and there's just no resolve. So it's like I kind of walk out just like feeling a little like, oh man. But it doesn't ruin the film. The film is so much fun.
I wouldn't say that at all.
It has such a great atmosphere, so creepy and eerie and spoopy.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there's definitely, like I said earlier, the creepiness is cranked up for sure, and it's
a lot of it's helped by Robert Englund.
Yeah, oh definitely, he brings a lot to the role, and the costume in general, like They made a good monster. They really did.
Yeah, it's very iconic. Once you
Yeah.
see those striped, that kind of a striped pattern, you're just
Oh,
like,
right.
oh, Freddy Krueger.
Oh, that's Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, where's the razor hands?
I used to have one of those claw toys.
Yeah, I used to as well. I still have I have chopsticks, Freddy Krueger chopsticks.
Oh, really? That's funny. So, yeah, I mean, you got much other notes on Nightmare?
No, that was I think I said 4 out of 4.
Yeah.
Muddy third act, but like still thoroughly enjoyable. Great music.
Oh yeah.
Good teenager performances for like a good teenager horror movie.
Right.
Iconic slasher. Amazing, terrifying villain. Great concept. I all around I love this movie. Highly recommended.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that this movie is very worth your time. I do believe you have to, if you want to stream this, rent it, as well as
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th on you could
both
do
on
that
Amazon Prime.
I though, I really actually really enjoyed this movie. I think that it just, I like anything that builds a world that is outside of what you view as your reality. That's a little outside the norm. I'm down there for it. So I would say for that reason, maybe I'm drawn to this movie.
Horror movies that play on like the psychosis is great.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, those are the ones that scare me the most.
Yeah,
for sure.
I agree with that, and like, that's why like we'll someday talk The Lighthouse, but that's why The Lighthouse is one of my favorite movies. It plays off of that mental, the underlying like it's a psychological. That's what I'm trying. That's what I'm looking for. There's a lot of that in Nightmare on Elm Street because of how Wes Craven blends reality and that dream world.
Yeah, it is because there's moments that in those dreams, like you said, where it could be real life for as far as the viewer knows and the dreamer in most cases, and then all of a sudden it just turns, and the turns are it kind of reminds me of the movie where the guy, he puts the video in his chest. Videodrome.
Cronenberg.
Yes, the Cronenberg movie, Videodrome. So it kind of reminds me of that, like when that movie starts to turn. Man, we gotta talk about that movie
someday.
Anyhow, that's what I gotta say about A Nightmare on Elm Street. It's definitely worth renting it. And if you're like, oh, which one of these two movies that have crossovers later in their trilogy should I start with? Start with this. Not trilogy, saga, franchise, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think I'm ready to reveal who I would invite back.
Yeah. Our MV threesome.
Our MV threesome.
Our MV3 mate. MV3 mate.
Three mate, yeah, the three mate.
Yeah.
So the three mate that I would invite back. Honestly, I was pretty torn for a while, but as we were talking about it, I think I would honestly bring back A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yep.
It is a lot of fun, and obviously I was torn between that and Halloween. Halloween has so much going for it, for sure.
But I mean, but Friday the 13th, it puts forth an added, it's like, I'm very sexy. You want sexy in a threesome, but at the same time, you don't want too sexy. And
No.
I mean, this movie's not too sexy at all, but like, you don't.
I want it to be a touch goofy, just a touch.
Yeah. You want some personality. You don't just want sexy, and that's all that movie has. It's just, I'm sexy. You want some personality.
That's
so,
right.
Sorry, Friday the 13th. You're not.
Yeah, it's all
not coming back to the threesomes.
And it's not even that sexy. It's like the kind of sexy where they think they're sexier than they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're not really invited back, but I would bring back Nightmare on Elm Street. Honestly, I bring back Halloween as well, but maybe on less frequent occasions.
But for you, Nightmare is
That's my answer.
The top dog,
yeah, of these three.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be. I had a personality, like a whole crisis over this in my life, because I'm watching the movies and I love Halloween. I love Nightmare on Elm Street, and there's no lie. Halloween is my favorite horror movie. I will watch it every year until it gets old for me, which hopefully never happens. But best of the threesome, I do like Nightmare on Elm Street more in that regard. For the threesome, it's scarier. It's got a scarier villain.
Yeah.
Both movies are perfect in my opinion. I mean,
will give you
Nightmare
that.
on Elm Street has that muddy third act, but like it doesn't ruin the perfection. It's well shot, well directed.
Yeah.
Beautiful concept. Both of them have beautiful concepts.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people are gonna be like, "Well, how can Halloween be your favorite and then this one win?" I'm fucked up. It doesn't have to make sense.
I am honestly surprised that you chose this over.
But I mean, again, I'm inviting them both back to threesomes. It's like Halloween's gonna be in many threesomes. Like,
yeah, they can come back together.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah,
they're beautiful movies. But of this threesome, if I were to choose, I would say that Nightmare on Elm Street did entertain me more. Maybe that's because I've seen Halloween too much. But I just feel like even as more years pass, Nightmare on Elm Street feels less dated. It feels the scares are still great. The kills are still gruesome.
The effects are amazing. They really
and
are.
it's spooky. You see dead people, like she hears her dead friend, and like you turn and you see her dead friend in a body bag, and it's just so creepy.
Yeah.
And then like she goes out in the hallway and her friend's laying down in the body bag, and her, like the legs just lift up randomly, and just she gets dragged along by nothing. It's just it's scary. And
and when that hall monitor, who is Freddy Krueger, that part kind of messes with me too.
Yeah. Because it's goofy. It's a girl speaking, but with Freddy Krueger's voice.
Yeah,
it's just like, oh man,
so weird.
Yeah, this movie is very creepy, and
Nightmare's the scarier film, but Halloween's your favorite.
Halloween's my favorite. It has more respect. I have more respect for it because of what it created, because of what it did with such a low budget. Even Craven is, in my opinion, just probably the greatest director to understand the genre of horror.
Oh, sure.
I think there are some, especially right now, we have some really great directors working in the horror genre field, and I'm excited to see what they're doing. Like, Robert Eggers of The Witch and The Lighthouse. Like, I'm super excited to see where he goes.
Sure.
Ari Aster of Hereditary and Midsommar. Like,
man,
there's so many good horror. Yeah, there's great
Jordan
horror
Peele's
directors still.
Some pretty good stuff.
Jordan Peele, yep. Like that, like in all of them, I think only have 2 movies right now. But like
true.
Horror genres, right? Hey, there we go. But horror. Well, we can do threesomes of all 3 of them.
That's right.
But
we could do. You're right. Okay.
Yeah, we'd have to rent. We'd have to rent some of Jordan Peele's because they're sadly not accessible without
moolahs.
Add-ons.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine by me. But no, there's a lot of great horror directors in the business. There's always been great horror directors, but I think, and people can argue with me, and that's fine. Wes Craven, I think, understands the genre the best out of everybody, and that's what makes Nightmare on Elm Street so damn good. Is he gets the tropes, he knows the creep factor. Like it's a lot of fun, and it's the winner of the threesome for both of us, which is a surprise for me because I am very biased.
Yeah, I'm very surprised by your answer. And honestly, I was leaning back and forth. But honestly, guys, you should watch A Nightmare on Elm Street. Maybe not with your kids.
Nah, let your kids watch it. It'll be fun.
You do what you want with your kids.
Just, cover their eyes up during the sexy stuff and the murder scenes, which is that's only 70% of the movie.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, there's only blood throughout. That's all.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be it from us.
Yeah.
I'm the
y'all couch potatoes. You have a good night. You stay cozy.
Hell yeah, you sure do. Bundle up. Have yourself a little watch
Cup of cocoa.
Your favorite horror movie. 'Tis the season. Maybe a candy bar. Don't eat too much before the day, though.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the Faceless Traveler. I'm not at all.
You're the
Faceless Leone.
And I'm the Green Leone. He's the Faceless Leone. I'm the Green Traveler. We love you. Good night, everybody.
Safe travels. Green and Faceless on the Couch is a proud production of Fiction Works 19. It is our intent to publish new episodes each Thursday evening. If you enjoyed the show or wish to make a suggestion, feel free to leave us a comment. Good night.